It's an interesting thing about barriers. We tend to see them as obstacles, as walls meant to keep us out. But more often than not, the value of what's behind them is proportional to the effort it takes to get in. There's something deeply human about curiosity that pulls towards the hidden, the forbidden, the exclusive. And when we talk about a paywall, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about commitment, about deciding that something is worth your time, your attention, your investment. Now, when you step past that threshold, when you've decided to cross into that territory, what you find can be transformative. Sometimes it's not just entertainment. It's a perspective shift, a deep laugh that stays with you for days, or an insight that alters the way you see the world. And the truth is, the moments we'll explore today aren't just pieces of content. They're small but potent demonstrations of why some things are worth guarding, and why, when we finally encounter them, they strike with such force. So in this talk, I want to take you on a journey through 5 of those moments that lived behind the paywall, hidden from the casual passerby, but which carried a richness, a kind of distilled impact that only those who chose to look deeper could ever really appreciate. The value of exclusivity and commitment behind a paywall lies in a principle as old as human civilization. The things we work for tend to mean more to us than the things we stumble upon without effort. It's not just about money. In fact, the financial cost is often the smallest part of it. What truly matters is the act of making a decision to invest, to choose, deliberately, to cross into a space where not everyone is allowed. This decision itself alters the way we experience what we find there. It signals to our mind that what we are about to encounter is worth our attention, and that very expectation shapes the quality of our engagement. Think about it, a meal tastes different when you've spent hours preparing it compared to when it's delivered to you in a paper bag. In the same way, the moments that exist behind a paywall are colored by the sense that they are earned rather than stumbled upon. Exclusivity has a peculiar psychological effect. Knowing that something is not accessible to everyone creates a sense of rarity, and rarity has always been linked to value in the human mind. A gemstone is just a piece of mineral until you recognize that there are only a few of its kind in existence, and then suddenly it's precious. Behind a paywall, this scarcity is not natural but constructed, yet it works in much the same way. We perceive it as special, curated, perhaps even elite. And when we finally gain access, we enter with a different mindset than we would if the same material were free to everyone. We're more attentive. We're ready to extract meaning, ready to enjoy, ready to justify the effort we made to be there. This commitment functions almost like a contract between the creator and the audience. The creator says, "I have something here that is worth more than casual consumption." And the audience responds, "I'm willing to invest in order to see it." That agreement forms a bond of trust. You expect the content to deliver on its promise, and you approach it with a willingness to receive. Without this layer of mutual investment, the dynamic shifts. Free content is often browsed with half an eye, clicked away from after a few seconds, scrolled past without thought. But once we've committed to something, we linger. We're not just consuming, we're engaging. We're taking mental notes, laughing harder, feeling more deeply, and remembering more vividly. There's also the matter of identity. Paying for access, stepping into that exclusive circle, subtly signals something to ourselves. We are people who value this kind of content, this kind of knowledge, this kind of entertainment. It becomes part of how we define ourselves. Just as someone might wear a band's tour shirt to show they're not just a casual listener but a dedicated fan, we carry the same quiet badge when we invest in what's behind the paywall. It's not always something we boast about, but it shifts our own perception of who we are and what we value. Commitment breeds attention, attention breeds appreciation, and appreciation deepens the impact of what we experience. That's the real value at play here, not just the content itself, but the frame of mind we bring to it when we've made a conscious choice to be part of something exclusive. It's why certain moments linger in memory long after the details fade. Why certain jokes or stories seem sharper, funnier, or more profound simply because we encountered them in a space we had to work to enter. This is the paradox of exclusivity. The barrier that seems to keep people out is the very thing that can make the experience richer for those who choose to cross it. Curiosity is one of the most powerful forces in human nature, a subtle yet relentless pull that drives us toward what we don't yet know or understand. It's the spark that has led people to explore uncharted lands, decode ancient languages, and peer into the farthest reaches of space. In the everyday world, curiosity also plays a quieter but equally persistent role. It draws our attention to what's hidden, to what exists beyond the obvious. When something is locked away, whether it's behind a physical door or a digital paywall, the very act of it being concealed awakens a part of our mind that wants to see what's inside. It's not always about necessity. Often, it's about possibility. What could be there? What might I find if I look a little deeper? This anticipation turns the unknown into something magnetic. A paywall, in this sense, is more than just a business model. It's a trigger for this timeless instinct. By placing content just out of reach, it transforms the experience from passive scrolling into an active pursuit. You're no longer just a passerby in the endless stream of information. You're a seeker, someone who has noticed that there's something worth pausing for. That pause is important. It's the moment when curiosity gathers momentum, when you start imagining the quality, the humor, the insight, or the uniqueness that might be waiting for you on the other side. The brain thrives on these little mysteries, and in satisfying them, we often find the rewards more meaningful than the content we stumble upon without thought. There's also a deeper psychological angle here. We tend to attach more value to what we've actively pursued. If you find an article, a video, or a podcast segment simply because it was free and visible, you might enjoy it, but it competes with 1,000 other distractions. However, when you actively cross a barrier to access something, whether that means paying for it, signing up, or taking extra steps to unlock it, the process itself primes you for a richer experience. Your mind is ready to notice details, to appreciate subtleties, to really listen or watch with intention. Curiosity, once satisfied through effort, becomes a form of earned pleasure rather than mere consumption. In some ways, this mirrors how we experience art or literature. The works that stay with us are often the ones we had to wrestle with, the ones that asked something of us before they gave up their meaning. Curiosity works the same way. It nudges us to engage more deeply, to connect the dots, to consider why what we've found is special. The hidden nature of paywalled moments heightens this engagement because it feels like opening a secret letter, personal, intentional, and worth savoring. And let's not overlook the playful side of curiosity. There's joy in the chase, in the act of uncovering something others might not have seen. It's why people love Easter eggs in movies or hidden features in apps. The thrill of discovery adds a second layer of satisfaction beyond the content itself. Paywalled experiences tap into that same psychology. You're not just watching a video or reading an article, you're discovering it. You've moved from the casual crowd into a smaller, more attentive audience, and that changes the way the moment lands. When curiosity is the driver, we don't just consume, we explore. And exploration has a way of transforming what we find into something more vivid, more personal, and more lasting than it would have been had it simply appeared in our feed without any effort on our part. Transformative experiences found beyond surface-level access often arrive in ways we don't entirely expect. At first, it might seem like you're simply unlocking a piece of premium content, but the real value often lies far deeper than the transaction itself. These are the moments that don't just entertain but shift something in your thinking, your perspective, or your emotional state. They can come as a sudden flash of insight, a burst of laughter that catches you off guard, or a quiet truth that lingers in your mind for days afterward. And it's this deeper effect, the way certain experiences reach past the surface and make contact with something more personal, that sets them apart from the endless stream of easily accessible material we encounter every day. When content lives beyond surface-level access, it forces a kind of intentionality. You arrive there not by accident, but because you chose to step in. That choice creates a readiness to absorb more fully. Your mind isn't split between half a dozen tabs or distracted by notifications instead. It's present, tuned in, prepared to receive something of value. In this state, what you encounter has a greater chance of leaving an impression. You don't just skim it, you experience it. And that experience has the potential to be transformative precisely because you've given it your full attention. Something that's increasingly rare in a world of constant distraction. Sometimes the transformation is subtle, an idea that challenges the way you've always looked at a problem, or a piece of humor that lifts your mood and makes the rest of the day seem a little lighter. Other times, it's more profound, like a story that resonates so strongly it changes how you see yourself or the people around you. Behind a paywall, where access is limited, creators often feel freer to share more vulnerable, nuanced, or challenging work. This content isn't designed to be instantly viral or to compete for clicks. It's designed to connect, to provoke thought, to offer something enduring rather than fleeting. The absence of the surface level noise also means that these transformative moments often carry a more personal tone. You're not in a massive crowd of casual viewers, you're part of a smaller, more engaged audience. The creator speaks more directly, the ideas feel more tailored, and the connection feels more genuine. It's a bit like attending an intimate performance rather than watching a concert clip online. The closeness changes the quality of the experience. In a way, these moments work like a catalyst. They don't necessarily solve a problem or hand you a ready-made conclusion, but they spark a chain reaction in your mind. You start to think differently, to make connections you hadn't considered, to question old assumptions. That's the quiet power of transformative content. It continues to work on you long after you've closed the page or finished the video. The best of these moments become reference points you carry forward, shaping future decisions, influencing conversations, and even altering your sense of what's possible. And this is why surface-level access rarely produces the same effect. When something is too easy to obtain, it's also easy to take for granted. The moments that truly transform us are the ones we've sought out, invested in, and experienced with intention. They stay with us not just because of what they said or showed, but because of how we arrived at them through choice, commitment, and a willingness to go beyond the surface to find something worth keeping. Memorable moments that justify the cost of entry often stand out not just for their content, but for the way they connect with us on a personal level. When you decide to pay for access to something, there's an unspoken expectation that it will deliver more than the ordinary. You're not just buying a product or a piece of entertainment, you're investing in an experience that you hope will be worth the price. And when you encounter a moment that surpasses that expectation, a moment so engaging, so perfectly timed, or so emotionally resonant that you find yourself replaying it in your mind, it validates your decision entirely. That's the kind of satisfaction that lingers long after the payment has been made. These moments can take many forms. Sometimes it's a piece of information or insight that feels like it was meant specifically for you, the kind that changes how you approach a situation in your own life. Other times, it might be humor so sharp and unexpected that you find yourself laughing long after the clip ends, sharing it with others just to relive the reaction. It could be a story that strikes a deep emotional chord, a visual scene that's so striking you can't forget it, or even a moment of vulnerability from the creator that feels refreshingly authentic. Whatever form it takes, the key is that it resonates in a way that free, casual encounters rarely do. Part of what makes these moments so memorable is the context in which they occur. You've crossed a threshold to access them, which means you're already in a more attentive and invested state of mind. You're there with the intention of engaging, not just passing time. This intentionality heightens your receptivity. You notice details you might otherwise miss. You pick up on subtleties in tone or expression, and you feel more personally addressed by the content. It's like sitting in the front row instead of the back. Everything feels closer, sharper, more immediate. There's also an interesting psychological effect that comes into play. When we've invested in something, we tend to evaluate its worth not just in terms of what we paid, but in terms of the peak experiences it gave us. One truly great moment can retroactively make the entire purchase feel justified. Even if other parts of the content were average, that single standout experience becomes the anchor point in your memory, the thing you recall when you think about why it was worth it. This is why creators often put special care into delivering these kinds of moments. They're not just highlights, they're the currency of satisfaction, and these moments don't always have to be grand or elaborate. Sometimes their power lies in their simplicity, a well-timed pause, a perfectly chosen phrase, a relatable truth delivered with sincerity. Because you've sought them out intentionally, even small details can feel amplified. You might find yourself replaying a line of dialogue or a snippet of commentary because it feels too good to let go. In this way, the moments you remember aren't just passively consumed, they're actively claimed, marked in your memory as worth keeping. When that happens, the cost of entry stops feeling like a transaction and starts feeling like a gateway, a necessary step you took to access something you'll carry with you. You stop thinking about what you paid and start thinking about what you gained. And that shift in perspective is what makes these moments so powerful. The deeper connection formed when we invest in content comes from the way commitment changes the relationship between creator and audience. When you put time, energy, or money into accessing something, you are signaling to yourself that it matters. You are choosing to be present in a way that casual, free consumption rarely encourages. This choice creates a subtle but important shift in how you engage. You are no longer just a spectator drifting past. You become an active participant in an exchange. The creator offers something they believe is worth protecting, and you respond by stepping forward to meet it halfway. This mutual act of investment creates a sense of trust, even if it's unspoken. That trust deepens the connection because it carries with it an unacknowledged promise. You expect the creator to give their best, and the creator knows you are willing to give your attention in return. The interaction stops feeling transactional and starts feeling more like a relationship. Over time, as you encounter more of their work, you begin to understand their voice, their rhythm, their values. You notice patterns in their humor, recurring themes in their stories, and the ways they challenge or comfort you. These details form a sense of familiarity that can make the content feel personal, as if it's being made for you specifically, even when you're one of many. This connection is reinforced by the environment in which the content lives. Behind a paywall, there's often less pressure to appeal to the broadest possible audience, which means creators can be more authentic, more niche, or more experimental. That authenticity invites you in further. It feels like you're being given a view into a more private side of their work, a side they trust you to appreciate. In turn, you engage more deeply, listen more closely, and care more about what they have to say. The connection becomes less about the mechanics of paying for access and more about the ongoing exchange of value between you and them. When this bond grows strong, the content starts to hold emotional weight. A joke isn't just funny because of its punchline. It's funny because you understand the creator's style well enough to anticipate where they're going. A serious moment isn't just moving because of what's being said. It's moving because it feels like it's coming from someone you know, someone whose perspective you've learned to trust. This familiarity allows for greater impact. It's the difference between hearing a stranger tell a story and hearing that same story from a close friend. The emotional resonance is simply stronger. Over time, this kind of connection can even influence the way you see yourself. You might adopt certain ideas, repeat certain phrases, or find yourself inspired to create something of your own. The relationship with the content becomes part of your own personal narrative, shaping your tastes, your knowledge, and even your worldview. And because you've invested in it, the bond feels earned rather than accidental, something you've chosen rather than something that just happened to you. In this way, the deeper connection isn't just about enjoying what you've paid for, it's about being changed by it. It's about becoming part of a smaller, more intentional audience where meaning is created not just by the content itself, but by the shared commitment that makes the experience possible. Why some things gain meaning precisely because they're protected has a lot to do with the way scarcity shaped our perception of value. When something is freely and endlessly available, it risks fading into the background no matter how good it is. We may still enjoy it, but the ease with which we can access it strips away some of its specialness. On the other hand, when access is limited, whether through cost, invitation, or other barriers, the experience becomes charged with a sense of rarity. We recognize it as something not everyone can have, and that exclusivity heightens our appreciation. It's the same reason rare collectibles, limited edition items, or private events carry a stronger emotional weight. Protection creates a frame around the experience, telling us that what's inside is worth guarding. Part of this effect comes from the fact that obstacles demand choice. If you have to make an effort to pay, to apply, to wait, then you are